Welcome back to Outside Views, and today we have to address one of the most insidious and dangerous trends in public discourse. The way false claims are actively fueling real-world localized anger against vulnerable people. And the topic is the furious debate over asylum policy and refugee housing in the UK. And it's a case study in how political cynicism and online misinformation converge to create a social crisis that never needed to happen. And my personal view is unequivocal. The current unrest, the protests, and the public rage directed at hotels housing refugees are not organic expressions of grievance. They are the predictable and manufactured result of a deliberate disinformation campaign that exploits genuine hardship. And the true tragedy is that this manufactured outrage completely distracts from the undeniable massive failure of governance that created the expensive hotel housing crisis in the first place. The entire debate is being poisoned by baseless viral lies, and we must call them out for what they are. In recent months, the debate over housing people seeking asylum in the UK has been hijacked by highly shareable, completely untrue narratives spread across social media platforms like X, Facebook, and TikTok. And the most successful of these lies are the ones that exploit the public's real anxieties over the cost of living and feelings of political powerlessness. You will see videos like the one that recently went viral from a man claiming to be a former hotel worker in Norfolk, making sensational yet entirely false claims about the luxuries supposedly provided to refugees at the taxpayer's expense. He claimed, for example, that people are handed expensive brand new smartphones at state cost. And this is simply untrue. The government provides no such service, though occasionally private charities might donate second-hand devices. And he also exaggerated the weekly allowance, claiming refugees receive £70 per week. This is also false. Government figures show people receive around £50 per week if they are self-catering, or less than £10 per week if meals are provided in the accommodation. And other, even wilder claims have circulated, such as the fantasy that people receive £2,000 just to move into a hotel, a claim explicitly debunked by local authorities like the Liverpool City Council. And these claims, whether they are exaggerated or completely fabricated, tap directly into what Professor Andrew Chadwick of Loughborough University calls the very emotional topic of housing and food. And the core toxic narrative is this: the state is pampering foreigners with free luxury, while you, the hard-working local, struggle to feed your family and pay your rent. And this narrative is potent because it creates a direct feeling of injustment and resentment where a rational discussion about policy should be. And in all the countries in Europe, we need to discuss the issues of immigration with the differences of asylum seekers, of war refugees, and migrants. But you cannot have a rational, reasonable discussion if it's all overshadowed by those false claims and by this kind of hate marketing. It is incredibly effective in reaching people who may not be politically engaged, connecting the complex issue of immigration directly to their daily struggles over housing, healthcare, and school places. And it provides a simple, satisfying, and completely false target for their legitimate frustrations. And the cynical genius of this disinformation is that it focuses all the anger on the people being housed while ignoring the massive and expensive failure of the system that requires hotel accommodation in the first place. It's undeniable that the hotel system is extremely costly for the government. A report published by the Parliamentary Home Affairs Committee revealed that the expected costs for accommodation contracts between 2019 and 2029 are set to triple to a staggering £15 billion in total. And this monumental spending is a result of multiple factors: the pandemic, the rising number of small boat arrivals crossing the channel, and the chaotic, expensive policies of the previous administration, such as the widely criticized, financially reckless plan to deport people to Rwanda. And the irony is that the money is being wasted not on luxury, but on a desperate, disorganized stopgap solution that often provides appalling conditions. And media reports consistently highlight the non-luxury reality: overfilled rooms with no privacy, dirty mattresses, broken sanitation facilities, and even expired food. And people are forced to remain in this limbo for years while their status is being decided, contrary to the government's promise that hotels are only a temporary measure. And so the reality is this: the taxpayers are paying a massive bill for a dysfunctional system that provides terrible conditions, but the anger is directed at the victims of the system, not the architects of the dysfunction. And this misdirection is exactly what the far-right elements want. These false claims are not staying online, they are translating directly into real-world intimidation and protest. And across the country, we see protests being organized outside hotels, with certain groups circulating online maps of shame that pinpoint the locations where refugees are housed. And recently in Southampton, hundreds gathered outside the Highfield House Hotel, demonstrating against the housing of people seeking asylum. And these protests are not isolated, they are organized, and they are openly supported by known far-right activists like Stephen Yaxley-Lennon, better known as Tommy Robinson, who uses his large platform on X to actively call for participation. And furthermore, the narrative is being amplified by political parties. The right-wing populist party Reform UK is directly participating in this atmosphere of resentment, attacking the current government for the crisis. Well, you should attack the government for the crisis, but in a rational way, to get the backlog away and not for housing the people. There is a backlog to decide if their asylum claims are legitimate. A gigantic backlog still. And they conveniently ignore the fact that the massive scale-up of hotel usage began under the predecessor Conservative government, specifically during the COVID-19 pandemic, as shown by research from Oxford University. By attacking the current administration and linking the problem to supposed open border policies, these groups keep the pressure on the most visible, tangible symbol of the crisis, the local hotel, and keep the anger boiling. The new government has promised to end hotel usage by 2029 and is exploring moving people to military sites instead, but even that move has been criticized by the National Audit Office as potentially costing more than the current hotel contracts. It demonstrates that the basic legal obligation to provide shelter while an asylum application is pending is a massive challenge, and there are no quick, cheap fixes. The political establishment must cease its vague, toothless condemnations and start actively pushing back against the specific verifiable lies being spread online. They must confront the fact that the housing issue is an open wound that extremist groups are gleefully infecting with disinformation. Narratives surrounding housing, health, and schools are powerful because they are local and relevant to everyone, making them the perfect vectors for anti-immigrant sentiment. The lack of affordable housing, the pressure on local services, these are the real problems that make the ground so fertile for resentment. When people feel powerless to affect macro-level economic policy, they are easily swayed by simple emotionally resonant lies about local visible unfairness. I should have said unfairness. And the reality is that the UK is legally obligated under the UN Human Rights Convention to provide accommodation, and the high cost is a spectacular failure of government procurement and processing, and not a conspiracy to lavish luxury on vulnerable people. The £15 billion price tag is the cost of dysfunction and not decadence. It's a profound political scandal that they are paying exorbitant prices for what are often terrible conditions, yet the conversation is monopolized by false claims of £70 weekly allowances and free iPhones. The focus should be on the political class that failed to reform the asylum process for years, allowing the backlog to balloon and the hotel reliance to skyrocket, not on the people who are the marginalized victims of this negligence. And until there is genuine political accountability for the administrative chaos that necessitates this spending, the false claims will continue to flourish and the local protests will continue to spread, driven by a manufactured rage that is actively encouraged by those who prioritize political gain over social cohesion. So thanks for joining me on Outside Views, and if you want to know more, the next video is right here in the end screen.